Let me ask you something. Are you getting everything out of your rent-to-own business? If you're not an A-Pro member, then the answer is probably no. Look, advocacy is A-Pro's bread and butter. This is why they were created and what they do best. But here's the thing. A-Pro membership is about way more than advocacy. A-Pro connects you to the movers and the shakers of the industry, people who've been there, done that, and they can help you do it even better. A-Pro's monthly webinars give you expert insights and actionable takeaways. It's like having a masterclass for your business every single month. Got questions about complex regulations or sticky situations? No problem. A-Pro's legal hotline gives you direct access to experts who have got the answers. That's a peace of mind that you can't put a price on. And let's not forget the resources, news, updates, and tools that keep you ahead of the curve. Scholarships for your team? Check. Disaster relief when you need it most? Double check. A-Pro is your ultimate support system in the rent-to-own world. So stop settling for less. With A-Pro, members get more. More support, more connections, and more success. Head over to rtohq.org and join the A-Pro family today. Because in this business, more isn't just better. It's essential. See you at the top with A-Pro. Hello and welcome to the RTO Show. I'm your host, Pete Chow. Today, we are talking rent-to-own or benefits of rent-to-own from Brad Denison. He's the CEO of Benefits Marketing Solutions. And I've been talking to a lot of people lately, and let me tell you, this is an interesting story. This is something that we want to talk about because it is not rent-to-own proper. This is something that's added to rent-to-own, and it actually adds benefit, as in the name of Benefit Mark Solution. So how you doing today, Brad? And how's everything going with BMS?
Well, I'm doing well. BMS is doing well. I appreciate you having us on the show. You're doing great stuff here.
Well, we appreciate that. And listen, right now, one of the big things that I wanted to talk about is 'tis the season in Florida and a lot of the southeastern states that are, there's a lot of things coming up as far as the end of summer, hurricane season. If you guys don't have Benefit Marketing Solutions, you guys really need to have that because let me tell you, it's so necessary in the rent-to-own landscape. So Brad is the CEO of Benefits Marketing Solution, been there 18 years. And I know in the 18 years, you've probably seen some really outlandish, some amazing things in the RTO industry. Is that right?
Yeah, that's right. We've been through recessions, pandemic, hurricanes, floods. So it's kind of covered everything.
Now, we never want to jinx it, right? And say, I don't think there's anything out there I haven't seen. And then there's something that comes across your desk and you go, okay, that's a brand new one. But we'd like to say that they've been in business and they've been doing this so long that there isn't much that's going to tell, hey, I just haven't seen this or I haven't done this before. They pretty much have a handle on everything. And the reason that I wanted to talk to BMS today is because right now we're going into that season. Not only do we have RTO World 2024 coming up, and if you don't get the chance to go see them, please listen to this podcast and contact them on benefitsmarketingsolutions.com. But Brad, one of the things I want to talk about is the ways that BMS really benefits not only the consumer, but the RTO brand and what you offer. Now, how does it work? I mean, when you have these many options and stuff like that, when you're talking about the options that you offer through BMS, first off, how did BMS come about? What triggered the start of somebody saying, this is what we need to do and this is how we can benefit the consumer?
Well, that's a great question and a great place to start. So back in the 1980s, Danny Wright and Steve Owens in Norman, Oklahoma started the company. It was actually Foresight at the time. Some people will remember that. And it was created because rent to own is not credit. It doesn't operate under the statutory credit guidelines. And consequently, all the products that were out there in the marketplace, such as credit life insurance, were designed and engineered for a credit transaction. Because rent to own is not credit, because you can come and go as you please, we really needed a benefit that would fit that particular transaction. And so that's kind of what got it started. And then as it developed, benefits were added, things changed as the market changed, and as ideas from dealers, and their customers came up. The program has changed over the last 30 years.
I can tell you right now, when I'm talking to anyone who's been in the rent-to-own industry for any amount of time, we always end up discussing in some way, shape, or form how it's grown and changed and become so more fluid with what's going on in the culture that we have today than we had before, right? So it started in the late 80s or mid to late 80s, depending on who you talk to and what part they started with. But then you've got the 90s, which wasn't the same time frame as the 2000s, which wasn't the same time frame as the 2010s to the 2020s. And in the last 5 years, I've seen so many changes in rent to own because of the way we do business, because of the way, what happened, the pandemic, and how it changed how we do business in certain ways. And now it's so much more streamlined. It's just amazing because right now, a lot of transactions happen online. And that's why I wanted to talk about the benefitmarketingolution.com, because you guys have a mobile app that also services the RTO industry and the consumer, correct?
We do. In fact, over the last several years, we've really transitioned from a primarily paper transaction to a web-based or app-based transaction, so that most of the interaction between a customer and the program is now done online, which makes it easy for people. They can use their cell phone to access the benefits. If they have any questions, they can go to the website. And we've really expanded that into, and we can talk about this later, but we've completely put our claims process online so that customers and dealers can access the claims portal and not only file claims and upload documents digitally, but they can also monitor where those claims are in the process.
I think everything is online right now. I know that if you're talking about anything that happens in my household, my wife is the first one to go online and take a look at something. And if it's something attached to a mobile phone, it just makes it so much easier for our customer base to just tackle it and get it done. And looking at this, how much you say it was primarily paper, and now we've gone streamlined. Now we've gone to the way it is online and going to your mobile app and getting it done. How much time frame do you think has been eliminated by going getting it all digital from where it was in paper? How much time frame would you say you've cut down on the processing time on a typical claim?
Well, I don't know that it's changed the processing time, because our claims process, for the last probably 15 years has been online and digital. It's just a matter of how people access that process. So I don't know that it's cut down on the time a whole lot. Our processing time is typically 3 days. So, and it has been that way for decades. And we needed it to be 3 days because of the nature of the transaction. When a customer has something bad happen, it impacts not only the customer, but the store. And so we really need to get involved, get that claim process, get it approved, and get the customer back on rent and get the dealer back in a situation where they're getting rent for the period of time that's covered.
Well, I can say right now, 3-day turnaround time is an amazing time. When you have anything less than a week, it really helps out, because these RTO customers that we have now in the industry, they really need what you're offering. And it's just very intuitive. It's very nice to see the app. I don't know if anybody's ever gone to the app, but if you have the app or you have the ability to check the app out as you sell it to your customers, it's an absolute amazing thing to do. And with them being able to upload and you being able to upload and get things done, it just makes it so easy. But BMS wasn't always the number one brand out there. Now you service up to 90% of the RTO industry, which is absolutely amazing. I can't imagine the 10% that's out there. They're either maybe don't understand what's going on or they haven't been there yet. But there used to be more players in the game. And so far, BMS has acquired PTS, right? Is that correct?
August of 2022, we acquired their accounts. We didn't acquire PTS. I think PTS and Tony are still doing business in other areas in tax where they got their start. So we didn't acquire the company. We just acquired their accounts. But, let me go back. BMS, starting as Foresight, really created the club concept back in the 1980s. And so we were the entity that created the concept, that put it into the marketplace. Other companies have come in since and tried to copy what we've done. and some of them have been around for a while, but for the most part, we have been the dominant player in the industry. Uh, we've introduced most or all of the new concepts in the club program. And that, I think, along with our customer service, our relationships, and our reputation, have led us to be the leader for the last 30 years. And so uh, PTS had, I think about a 5% market share, and we acquired their accounts not really to get market share, but I'll tell you, we really were excited about getting to do business with some of the leaders in the industry, the Best Ways, the Buddies, Rent King. And so, that was great for us to get those people that are friends of ours back into our business. But really the reason we did it, what was the motivating factor for us in acquiring those accounts, was we really believe that it served the industry well to have all of it under our compliance structure and the way we have structured the business. So, I don't want to get too much into the compliance stuff, but we have structured our program over the last 30 years to be compliant. And so we've had competitors over the years that have been challenged by regulators, and some of them received, the dealers with those competitors received multi-million-dollar penalties against them. And then we've had some just go out of business because they had their program structured wrong. So when bad things happen, like a hurricane or a flood, it just was too much for them, and they couldn't take the losses that occurred. So we've had a lot of that happen, and we think those type of things puts the whole concept of a club program at risk. When regulators come in and say, hey, these people aren't structured right or not doing it right, we think that puts the ability of a rent-to-own dealer to offer a club program at risk. And so we wanted to put that under our control. And we think with our 30-year track record of successfully defending the concept, that'll benefit the industry in the long run.
Well, absolutely. I definitely think it's a great idea and a great process to make sure that everything is secure, because when we add on the programs with the customer to increase value of what they're doing in the agreements and the processes that they do business with at the locations of the rent to own, you never want that additional benefit to not be 100% solid. And going over these years, it's amazing to see how much penetration you have of the RTO industry, because that 90% covers millions and millions of customers. Now, I do have a question, right? Because BMS covers most or not all of the United States?
We do business in all of the United States, in all states, and the District of Columbia. In some states, we do it a little differently because of, rent to own is not readily available in like Wisconsin and Minnesota. And so our program is structured a little differently for people that are using maybe a credit transaction up there.
That's understood, because that's exactly what I wanted to ask you about. So you have a lot of different states with a lot of different regulatory situations. And here's the point that I'm trying to make. It really is that you have the ability securely to do business in any state that you're in that offers the RTO transaction. And with BMS, you don't have to worry about getting in the weeds of whether this is really good coverage or not. Now, when I say that, there are so many different RTO businesses out there, so many different companies. And although rent to own has a generalistic feel to it as far as what you get covered, right? Because as you do business with rent to own, you're going to see certain things that come up frequently. The free delivery and setup, the no credit needed to open an agreement. In most cases, instant and pre-approvals, service and loaners are included. And then now we're saying 90 out of 100 times, we're also adding a BMS transaction to it because that adds value to the customer. But not all states are the same. So how does somebody go about, if they go to BMS, they're not currently with BMS, and they say, I want to start a program with you. You have the ability to tailor what you start or don't start, or what they need or what they feel is good for them at that point in time. Correct?
Absolutely. That's one of the things we have really taken pride in over the years is the ability to tailor a program to a specific dealer, whether that's a one store dealer or a 2,500 store dealer. What we've seen though over the years is we've worked hard to curate really top-notch benefits. So if you look through our benefits, and maybe we should back up a little bit and talk about some of the benefits that are in our club program. So we have protection benefits that protect anywhere from death, accident and sickness, unemployment, fire, flood, theft, hurricane. And then it also has accidental damage to the merchandise and extended service after the customer gets ownership of the merchandise. And then in addition to those protection benefits, we offer a really robust suite of benefits that include discounts on healthcare, telemedicine, discounts on everyday shopping, whether it's dining out or going to a local retailer for clothing or sporting goods, roadside assistant, legal services, a number of things that we can put in there. But over the years, we've worked so hard to curate a really top-notch book of benefits that we find that most dealers want to add, a complete suite of benefits because it provides so much value for the dollar. And if you look at a typical club program, and we're really proud of this, the customer gets somewhere between $70 and $80 worth of retail value for what typically a dealer charges $13 a month, $3, $2.99 a week. And we're able to do that because of our size and because of our buying power. We're able to put things like telemedicine. Telemedicine sells on the open market every day on the internet, not attached to anything else, for between $20 and $30 a month. And so that's just one of the benefits that the customer is getting for their $13. And so we find that dealers over the years have expanded the number of benefits, but we still have dealers that say, look, I think this works better for me than this benefit would. So we're happy to work with dealers to customize that to what they think fits their customer base best.
I think telemedicine is probably one of the things that stands out the most, because as you go into a rent-to-own location and you're looking for some type of product or a small service to get taken care of, who thinks that out of that transaction they can actually have a telemedicine situation for less than the market value that it's going for now, but receive the same value in the sense that you're going to get the same thing out of it for a rent-to-own transaction? It's something that doesn't really come along at all. If I'm going to any of the big box retailers and I'm looking for a specific product, when I get that product, I don't think that they're going to try to take care of me down the road. Telemedicine is huge. Actually, like a couple weeks ago, I wasn't feeling that great. I didn't have the time to really get into a doctor's appointment. I've got a division to run and I'm just got so much happening. And so I really went to our telemedicine, and it actually just made a difference. I was able to get seen. I was able to get medication, and it didn't slow my day down. And offering that to your consumers, offering that to the people you see, because rent-to-own is a relationship business. And in that relationship, you have the ability to offer telemedicine. And then you work with almost 300,000 or plus 300,000 vendors in that industry to just help out the consumer. That's just an amazing thing. For the 10% that's out there that doesn't have BMS, you really want to take a look into the value of this, because as Brad was saying, that $70, $80 worth of value is almost what it costs annually when you have the entire benefit situation at an average of $13. You're almost covering a large chunk of it by what you get out of it. And that just means it almost makes it a win-win for everybody without really looking deep into it. You can kind of see the benefits for face value, and it just makes it absolutely a great program to have. So when you have all of these put together, and you can get to pick and choose depending on where you are and what you have and what you want to give to the customers, is there some things that are like key within the, in the main United States area, or the key to rent to own in general, that most people just do not go without. There's like these 3 or 4 things or something that that happens to pretty much go out to everybody.
Let's take a quick break.
Hey everyone, it's Pete Chow here from the RTO Show podcast, and I want to tell you about a company that's making a real difference in the rent-to-own space. Wow Brands. I've seen firsthand how they approach marketing. And let me tell you, it's not just about ads. Wow Brands builds complete digital ecosystems designed specifically for the rent-to-own industry. Their e-commerce and lead generation strategies are built to bring in qualified leads. And did I mention that they are actively working with the rent-to-own industry while also being members of APRO and TRIB? Listen, these folks are passionate problem solvers. They don't just slap something together. They design, build, and scale the kind of digital retail tools your business needs and your customers actually want. So if you're serious about growing, reach out to Wow Brands at wowbrands.com. I trust them, and I think you will too.
Yes. In rent-to-own, we found that the unemployment benefit has always been a huge hit, and also the rental replacement has been a huge benefit. And the unemployment, obviously, especially during the pandemic, we were paying out millions of dollars in claims because that hit, and a bunch of rent-to-own customers became unemployed. And so normally that would put a big strain on the entire industry because you have a large section of your customer base that no longer has an income stream. So our program not only keeps that customer on rent, but keeps the revenue stream going to the dealer. So they were able to maintain their revenue stream. The customer was able to keep their product. And it became just a critical benefit during that period of time. It's always useful because, as you know, rent-to-own customers are susceptible to having unemployment in their life. And so it's really a benefit that has worked well for both the consumer and for the dealer. And then the product replacement, covers things like fire, flood, theft. We just went through this hurricane. We haven't yet seen what the results of that are going to be. But a couple of years ago, we had one single rent-to-own store file over $100,000 in claims.
Wow.
And we paid them. And so that's $100,000 of people that are getting to keep their bunk beds, keep their refrigerator, keep their television, and a dealer that's keeping the income stream from all that rental.
It just goes to show you how much of a benefit, and it's just in the name, the benefits marketing solution can add to your rent-to-own transaction. And keeping in line the relationships that we have with our customers, how great is it to have a relationship where you can say, your payments have been made on time, you're taking care of what you're supposed to do, let me take care of you, I have coverage on these things. Well, I'm not feeling well, but you got telemedicine. Or you have these benefits, you're going out of town, why don't you look into them and see what you can get out of it? And also, and the big thing is this unemployment benefit. So is it possible to really kind of understand how that unemployment benefit works to help the consumer?
Sure. So when a customer becomes unemployed, there's a 30-day kind of waiting period to make sure that's not just a a 1 week type of deal. But at the end of that 30 days, we pay the dealer the dealer waives the rent for that period of time up to 4 months. And I think for most dealers, up to $1,000 of rent. And we then back reimburse for that 30-day period, and then whatever going forward period up to 4 months.
So the consumer gets to keep the product, and the rent-to-own store, location, the business, they're not missing out on the revenues that they need to keep that customer going.
Correct.
I mean, that's awesome.
Yeah, we're fully insured. We reimburse the dealer for the cost of their waivers.
So Brett, you've been doing this for 18 years. As you come into the BMS situation anyways, you're the CEO, you've been doing this for 18 years. As you've seen things happen and as you've seen the time go by, how much have you seen BMS grow over the last couple of decades?
Well, great amount. I think in the time since I've been around, we have close to quadrupled in size. And that size comes from expanding our customer base, but also expanding the number of customers within a client that are taking advantage of the club. So, when I started back in 2006, it wasn't unusual for a dealer to be at, say, 30% acceptance, 30% of the rental customers on the club. And now it's not unusual to have somebody at 70, 80%. And I think that speaks to the value of the benefits that are in the program and the value that it provides to the dealer. But, it's interesting because I actually started in the industry back in 1991 at Rent-A-Center. I was in their legal department and ultimately became their general counsel. And so, through the 90s, as you mentioned earlier on the podcast, there were huge changes in the rent-to-own industry as far as really increasing the sophistication of the stores, increasing the advertising quality to really make the rent-to-own industry compete with retail as far as the image, the quality, and the kind of products that were being offered. And so it's been an amazing journey for me over the last 30 years to see what this industry has done and getting away from the benefit plan, for a second or two. What's been amazing to me is how I think through all the battles that we had to fight back in the 90s, and before the 90s, but what I got to witness in the 90s, all the battles that we fought, all these dealers had to come together and literally fight to keep the transaction alive. There were, every year, I would be battling 10 different states, either trying to get legislation passed or try to keep the legislation that we already had. And all the dealers that were involved in that process, I think, had this shared goal, this shared need to work together. And I think now, if you turn around and look, I think it's a unique industry, and you have these competitors out there sharing information on how they can make their stores better, how they can better serve the customer, how they can, put the entire industry in a better place as far as how it sits in the marketplace. So I think it's just incredible and it's interesting. And as far as changes from a benefit standpoint, we have morphed the program as regulations have changed. The Affordable Care Act came, we made changes because of that. And over the years, we've really transitioned to meet the customer where they live. So one of those examples is going online so that somebody can access a discount at their local sandwich shop on their phone. They don't have to go home, print out a coupon, or they don't have to go find their membership book and tear out a coupon. They can access it right on their phone. And then, telemedicine was a huge deal. We actually introduced that before telemedicine was popular back in 2010. And back then, not many people understood what telemedicine was or how it could benefit them. But we kind of saw that as something that really fit the rent. It fits everywhere, whether you're rich or otherwise. But for a rent-to-own customer that may not have insurance or may not have access, to an easy to access clinic, telemedicine just works great. And so we've morphed the program to add benefits. Accident assist is one we added a couple of years ago that covers accidental damage, which used to be all on the customer. So we've tried to change with the customer's needs and with the regulatory environment.
Growing with RTO is one of the benefits of watching and being a part of the rent-to-own industry and seeing businesses such as BMS kind of come through and just be there for the ride the whole entire way. And in case you guys don't realize, LegCon, so the legislative conference hosted by APRO, where we go up to DC on a federal level and talking to everybody on the Hill and educating them about what happens in the rent-to-own mindset and the rent-to-own industry and what we're actually doing for our customers and the consumers in our area is huge. When you mention that, I remember seeing James McAlpine there and watching all these people get together, including BMS, Benefits Marketing Solutions, to talk to and inform some of our legislative bodies to say, hey, this is what we do and this is what we offer. And, you're talking about doing this years and years past. Well, they're still involved in it now. I was involved in it in 2024, and I can say I saw it firsthand of how they're getting involved. Also, I've seen it on different state levels where a lot of different businesses are also going to their state legislative bodies and saying, hey, this is rent to own. This is what we do. These are relationships that we have, and offering the BMS solution and tangent with what you have going on in a rent to own solution, the rent to own relationship is amazing. And it's just a benefit that adds so much more to the transaction. Now, talking about that, you got me all excited about LegCon because I really had a good time this year. I think it was really a great way to start kind of going to these things. It was a record number that went this year. But let's say I'm a new dealer. Let's say that I'm a new guy on the block. I've opened my brand. I'm RTO plus or whatever the case may be, and I'm walking in. How do I get BMS to be a part of what I'm doing? How do I contact? How does that process work?
Well, it's really fairly simple and straightforward. At any of the trade shows, you can come up to our booth. We'll get you started right then and there. If you're not attending the trade shows, you can call us. You mentioned James McAlpine. He leads our sales in the rent-to-own industry, and his telephone number is 214-989-2680.
Now, for anybody who's going to call James, you tell them for sure you heard him in the RTO Show podcast, and you wanted to reach out and find out how to make Benefits Marketing Solution a part of what you have going on in your everyday and the relationships and the agreements that you have with your clientele, because this is a benefit. And not only is it a benefit, it goes above and beyond. I still can't get over the telemedicine, which is something that's absolutely amazing, the damage coverage. And listen, you don't understand it? Well, I can tell you, let me tell you, there isn't a place in the United States that doesn't have some type of natural event going on. So we have hurricanes. Other people have mudslides and all kinds of other things that happen, and flooding or non-flooding or tornadoes or whatever the case is, or snow. Benefits Marketing Solutions is going to help you with the situation that you have with your product out there in the agreements, in the hands of the clients or the clientele that you have in those relationships. How great is it if they have an issue that you can get it solved in your state without any problems, no issues. And I know James personally, and I see him at all the events. He is a great guy to work with. If you know James McAlpine, give him a call, 214-989-2680. Get started with BMS today. And if you are going to get started, just remember to tell that, hey, I heard it on the RTO Show podcast, and I want to get this going. Brad, I can't help but think that Benefits Marketing Solutions and what you guys bring to the table as far as a business and RTO, you're kind of married at the hip when this comes out, right? Now it's like a lifelong transitional thing. So is there anything coming down the pipeline that's new for BMS that we should know about?
And nothing specific, but at the show in August, we'll have some announcements and as we usually do, and we're looking forward to that. One of the things you mentioned, James McAlpine, Susan Matthews, one of the founders of the business, and she was with Danny Wright when they started the club concept, 30 some years ago, just retired last year. But we've got James McAlpine, who's been in the industry for 30 years. I've been in the industry 30 years. And if you look at our leadership team, Jeremy Morton, Brandon Vining, they're approaching 20 years. So we come to the industry, 90% of what our company does is rent-to-own club. I mean, that's where we live. That's where we've lived for 30 years. And, that's what we do.
Now, Susan, I'm going to say this out loud. If you're listening, we miss you. We will always miss you. You've been a big part of the rent-to-own situation for many, many a year. I've seen her at many and many of conferences, and just getting together and almost being a family in the sense, like you said, rent to own is one of the very few industries where you're going to get different dealers from different states stand on one stage and give the best way to give rent to own or to do rent to own in their state. And that just doesn't happen very often. In a lot of situations, it's always, let me keep this industry secret, or let me roll out something that nobody else is doing and I'm going to keep it quiet. And in the instance, in the setup of rent to own, it's almost like a family affair. If I'm doing well, let me show you how to get this done. If I have BMS, let me talk to you about the benefits that Benefits Marketing Solutions brings to the table and what it can do for your clientele and your relationships. And we just all foster and grow. And that's why they have 90% of the market share. I guarantee you at some point it's going to be a lot more than that, but it is coming down the pipe. James McAlpine does a great job. We miss you, Susan. Robin, I love Robin to death. I just want you to know that she does an amazing job, and she's always done an amazing job. She's always there to kind of teach us and kind of show us what's going on. And if we have any questions, she's always been so quick to say, hey, listen, let me break this down into layman terms. Not that it's rocket science, but she always has a way of breaking it down into layman's terms and saying, this is how you get this done. If you need help, contact me. Let's get through this together because I want to get you taken care of. And BMS as a total has just been doing a great job in the rent-to-own industry. And I'm going to tell you guys right now, they are the best in the situation that they have. They are the best marketing solutions group that you can come across. You know, I'm glad that you guys are here. I'm glad that you guys are taking care of us. I can't wait to see you guys in August. Who's going to be there? Are you going to be there, Brad?
Oh, absolutely.
All right.
So I'll be there. Robin will be there. James, Jeremy Morton, Brianna Whitley. We may have a couple other people that join us at the show. You know, we just, over the years, have increased our presence at all the shows, at the legislative conference, and all other industry events. I really appreciate all the kind things that you've said about us. I hope we continue to earn that kind of recognition throughout the industry. I'll tell you what, I think the thing about this industry and about our company is we all love what we do. We're dedicated to it. It's our life. It's not just an occupation. And I think that's what makes the difference in how successful this industry has been, faced with tremendous hurdles over the years. And so, we're happy to be part of that. We're happy to, continue to contribute.
Well, I can tell you now, I see so much more coming in the future. I mean, listen, everybody, you understand how the rent-to-own industry works. That's why you listen to the RTO Show podcast, because this is the only podcast dedicated 100% to rent-to-own. And where else are you going to get a claims portal where you have a 3-day turnaround, where you're accepted by 90% is already using it? You're accepted pretty much by everybody in the rent-to-own industry. You have apps that work with the customers so that they have direct access to what they basically paying for and use all the time. Telemedicine, game changer. Over 300,000 vendors that are participating in the BMS solution. I mean, it's all there. And we appreciate, Brad, everything that BMS brings to the table. We appreciate all the years of service. And I just want to tell everybody here, we can't wait to see you at RTO World 2024 in Orlando, Florida, because it's going to be a little sunny this year. It might be a little hot, might be a little humid, but it's going to be sunny and it's going to be awesome. And we can't wait to see you guys there. Brad, I so appreciate you being on the show today. And I just want to tell everybody, we appreciate you listening to the show. And if anybody calls James McAlpine, again, James McAlpine at 214-989-2680, or you can go to benefitsmarketingsolutions.com, and they have an online access there where you can have somebody call you back, or you can put in your information and somebody will contact you and build what's unique to your business, your brand, and just make that situation the best relationship that you can have with your consumer. Brad, we really appreciate you being on here. Is there anything that you want to add before we let go?
No, I think we covered it. I really appreciate you having us on. We love telling our story because we think it's a great story. We think the rent-to-own story is a great story. So appreciate you having me, and we'll see you all in August at the show.
Ladies and gentlemen, Brad Denison, we appreciate it. If you guys have any questions for Brad, you are more than welcome to contact the show at pete@thertoshowpodcast.com. You can also send us direct messages through Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. We're doing pretty good on there. Anybody can look up The RTO Show. It will pop up. You can listen to us on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. And listen, I will tell you guys, as always, keep your collections low to get your sales high. Have a great one.